Hey guys, it's Fana with Off the Court Health, and I'm here with Micah freaking star athlete. And he was raised in Hawaii, born and raised. And I just want to thank ESPN Honolulu for sponsoring this podcast. So this is Micah. I literally had to Wikipedia him. Yes, he's on Wikipedia because I wanted to give
Dude, how the heck?
I wanted to give a career bio to show you guys how amazing of an athlete Micah is. I'm going to read this word for word. Okay, I'm going to read a word for word.
Don't trust Wikipedia, kids at home.
Well, this seems pretty accurate. Tell me if this is accurate. Micah Ma'a was a standout 3-sport athlete at Punahou, winning
not accurate.
Whatever. State basketball title in 2012, a state football title in 2013, 4 state volleyball titles, and earning Hawaii State Volleyball Player of the Year his senior season. At UCLA, he earned ABCA First Team All-America, First Team All-MPSF, and Off the Block Server of the Year his freshman season. And then in 2018, all NCAA volleyball tournament honors when they finished runner-up in the national championship. ABCA First Team All-American, First Team All-MPSF again, and setting the UCLA Bruins single season record of 67 aces his senior season in 2019. Is that correct?
I think it's for the most part pretty correct.
Well, that is a pretty stellar career so far, Micah.
And well, thank you.
You're currently in Turkey, right? Playing your third or fourth year?
This is going to be my 4th year as a professional volleyball player, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm in Ankara, Turkey, playing for a team called Halkbank, and excited for the new year for sure.
Yeah, how are you enjoying your season so far? I mean, you just got there.
Well,
right?
we've just been training, but I really like the setup. I really like the team. I really like the city. There's a lot to really like. The organization is really, really high. And like the place that I live is really cool. Luckily we've had sun because they came pretty early because not doing national team stuff. So if you don't do national team stuff, then you end up kind of coming over a lot earlier. But it's also nice because you get to see where you're going to live in the sun instead of only in the gray cold of winter.
Right. And you're there for how many months out of the year?
Typically from August through April or May, depending on how well you do.
Gotcha. How tough has it been missing like 8 months out of the year every year? I guess, especially from college till pro, right? Because technically you're away from home in college.
Yeah. I think my first transition was really difficult for me my freshman year. Leaving Hawaii after 18 years. And once I kind of made that jump, I kind of realized I could go anywhere else in the world and I'd be fine because it's a far ways. Like 5.5 hours is a far ways by plane. But also the culture of LA is so different than the culture of Hawaii. And the people are so different that I've actually had an easier time assimilating the people overseas. I know like my transition to France from LA to France was easier than my transition from Hawaii to LA, just even with the language barrier, even with all that kind of stuff, just because the people were different. And they are more similar to people I grew up with. So I've actually really enjoyed my time overseas. I know a lot of people don't have that same experience. But every season's been really amazing. I've had a really good time. It's difficult sometimes with having a long distance relationship. That throws a whole another element into it. And that's probably by far the hardest part. but yeah, it is what it is, and just trying to make it through that is a challenge, but also a great reward. So it's worth it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. What do you think helped you get through those difficult times the best, or like what helped you, I guess, assimilate better?
um, well, my difficult times overseas are very seasonal, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting because I didn't understand seasonal types
Mm-hmm.
of like ups and downs because Hawaii is pretty similar all year round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's no, sorry, it's
Oh,
not
good.
only because of the winter, but it's also because of like the stage in our season that it's in. So
Mm-hmm.
just so happens that like for me, the toughest months are the fifth and sixth month, uh, because the first 2 or 3 months fly by because it's new, it's exciting, and you're learning a lot, and uh, you're excited to play, and then you start to be like, all right, I've been here for a long time, and I haven't
Mm-hmm.
had much like time off, and the weather also has now become really bad. And so we're not doing very many fun things besides just go to the gym and come home, go to the gym and come home. And so that's kind of the hardest part of the season. And then you get to like the end of the 6 month and you're like, ooh, like I only got to do the seventh month and the eighth month, and then I'm gone. So you
Mm-hmm.
see the light at the end of the tunnel. Um, and you kind of just play that mind game of like, oh, I got 2 more weeks until it's the last month. And the last month is going to be a breeze. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost done. And you have playoffs, and it's exciting. Like the volleyball is getting back to being more exciting because it's like win or go home.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like really bought in again. And so um, that's kind of the trajectory of an overseas year, I would say, for the most part. For me, that's what it's been for me. And when I talk to some people, I think it's kind of similar, like around the board. Everyone kind of understands that kind of ebb and flow. So
Mm-hmm.
for some people, it's different, but that's kind of, I think, what the majority of guys go through.
Gotcha. So since playing volleyball is technically your job, do you ever feel like you're getting tired of the sport or burnt out? And if so, what do you do to kind of
Mm,
rekindle that?
wow, what a good question. Yes and no. I love to play like anything. And so that helps me a lot. I know like I've ran into people that are just really good at volleyball, but they don't love like games. They don't love competition. They're
Mm-hmm.
just very talented. And I think it probably gets harder for them. But for me, I've been lucky enough to like really, like I told my teammates in France, like my favorite part of the day is practice. And they were like,
Oh.
that's like my least favorite part. And I was like, I just love to come. I love playing, like we'd come 30 minutes early and we played 2-on-2 short court and like be drenched in sweat, probably work way harder in that 2-on-2 than anything else. And then like I just really enjoyed practice. No, it's not always the case. Um, for sure, like anyone, you're gonna get kind of in a rut and kind of burnt out at times. But what helps me in those times is knowing um, the like cycle of things, which is what I kind of left out about going through the years. That like what really helps is the understanding that you understand it's the fourth, fifth, sixth month, and like you're kind of more okay with like, yeah, I haven't been doing my stuff. Like I've just been come home, sit on the couch, watch TV.
Mhm.
But like I know that in a month I'm going to be right back on it, waking up at 7 a.m., working hard again. So you kind of just understand that flow, and it doesn't feel like you're going to be stuck forever and like this big grand thing. It's just like, yeah,
Mhm.
6 months. I'm struggling. I know this, and when it gets to the seventh, I'm going to be right back to it. I'll be fine. So knowing that like it's a finite thing really helps, and then understanding that with burnout too, um, and knowing like, yeah, I mean, it's usually coincides with the way that I'm living my life is really my
Mhm.
enthusiasm for practice as well.
Mhm.
Um, and so it kind of works in tandem.
Gotcha. So
How do
yeah,
I
it's
get
not
out
bad.
of that is a question too, because for
Mhm.
sure at times I'm just accepting it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like I'm just like, yeah, this is like a natural flow of life. Is like you can't just go grind 365 days a year. You
Mhm.
can. There are some beasts out there, but I know myself, and that doesn't work for me. Like I wouldn't be performing at my highest level if I did that. And I wouldn't be living my life at the highest level for me if I did that. So yeah, I'm okay with it. And then also um saying yes to opportunities and like social interactions that you don't really have the energy for. But it's kind of like an adverse effect of it. You think spending energy is going to drain you, but in a lot of ways, like spending energy actually like builds on top of itself. And so
Mhm.
you start to gain energy. Even in like the weight room, like when I'm like not in the mood, I'm just like going to go through it like this. Like that's going to be a long hour and a half and I'm going to be drained the whole time. And after I'm going to still be drained instead of like, oh, I'm going to try and attack this. And then I attack it. And like at the end, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling pumped up. Like I
Yeah.
came in this like not feeling well. And like, so it's kind of a weird little like trick in your mind is that you think you have to conserve energy. And the same with practice. You come in with a bad energy and your mind is just like, I'm tired. You tell yourself you're tired, you're going to be tired that whole time. And then you'll be tired
Mhm.
after. Instead of like, well, I'm not tired. Like, for sure I am tired, but I'm telling myself. And I'll tell like my teammates, like, bro, think I'm tired? I'm freaking not tired, baby. I'm ready to play. And then you actually trick yourself and like, I actually am ready to play. And then you're like competing and then you're getting a lot of energy. And then after practice, you're like a little bit more awake. So that's some tricks about how to get out of it.
Yeah, it's all about mindset, really. Yeah.
For sure.
It's like the whole idea of changing I have uh I
I
get
get
to.
to.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
such a cool, it's such a cool way to think about things. And um, Dylan Mystery, my teammate at UCLA, his coach, who was really close to, passed away from cancer. And um, that was his saying. And so that stuck with me a lot. And I thought that was just so
Mhm.
cool. And he went around and he gave some speeches about like just that. And he had a bracelet for a fundraiser that said like, I get to and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that was really cool. That was a really cool like trick, not trick,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's all
perspective, I
about
guess.
it's all about perspective. And once you think that way, you think of all the time all the things that you're like grateful for,
For sure,
especially
for
when you're
sure,
in like tough times or like, so
for
many people
sure.
have it worse than me. Like it could be so much worse than this.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Like I'm not gonna sit here and um, because I think a lot of my life is I've been super blessed and super lucky and like has gone really easily.
Hmm.
And I've been with like my sisters, I've been told like, dude, it just comes so easy, like happiness or whatever the case may be. Like when you talk about it, it's not very like relatable or like people just can't just do that.
Hmm.
Like they're not gonna be in like have that mindset. And so I've had to not come to terms, but like when talking about mental health, I'm very just understanding and like under like people, it's gonna be tough for people and just sit up here and say like have a good attitude. It's super easy. It's like it's not necessarily gonna help, and it's definitely not fair in a way to say like that it's easy because a lot of people's minds don't work that way. The mind is
Hmm.
the strongest thing, so you got a battle
True.
on your hands for sure.
How did you come to like I guess develop the stronger mindset? Like was it your parents teaching you? Was it just like,
Mm,
going through life and learning the hard way?
no, it was all upbringing. I think as I've gotten further away from my parents and my upbringing, like it's been more of a battle of like trying to keep that optimism. And then when I was in that place, it was super easy
Mm-hmm.
because that's just the way that my brain naturally is wired. And same with my dad. And so we could kind of like build each other up and
Mm-hmm.
have that optimism going on through our lives. Whereas nowadays, you don't really get to choose who you're around so much in my position. And so you could be around a lot of people that could bleed into the way you think, And so it's been harder being away from home for sure to stay in that like positive, optimistic, carefree, happy, go lucky kind of mindset. But luckily, it was just so strongly trained into me that it usually can kind of win out.
So so when you get to a new place, do you, I guess, like look for that optimistic person to like kind of build off of, or you kind of just
not necessarily. Not necessarily, but I think I just try and be that way and see if it helps other people look at the situation that we're at in a really good light. Because I do think that like negative people are really funny too. Like they're also like super funny and a lot of really good one-liners and good comments. And so I think it's funny to be around them. You just got to be careful, I guess, at times. But I'm not like, it's not a very conscious decision to seek it out. It might come because we're just more similar, but it's not like a huge conscious thing that I do.
Gotcha. Okay. Rewinding to how the fact that you grew up playing a bunch of sports, pretty much your whole life you were an athlete, like in pretty much every sport you played in. And you've been fortunate enough to like keep on with that athlete life. And I know that some people, whether it's injuries or burnout or whatever, like aren't able to play their sport anymore. So how has it been like having your main identity as, Micah, the freak athlete?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think luckily in my upbringing, I was never the best because I had played with Tui and Evan, two guys that were really good at a young age. And so Tui got MVP of nationals 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, and 17s here. And so if I'm going to play volleyball on the same court as that guy, I kind of like am going to be pretty humble and be like, wow, not that good. And the same thing for football. My best friend was one of the best wide receivers to ever come out of Hawaii. And then basketball, I was just like kind of a role player, like move the ball, rebound, and that kind of stuff. So I was never like pumped up as a star, which I think was really, really influential in my upbringing of like me having a clear mind of like, wow, not that great, Like every team I was on, I wasn't the best player. And so that was really nice. I'm really grateful for that. And then obviously, yeah, you get some of an identity from sports, but I had always found my identity as like who I was off the court because I thought I was a clown and I was getting into a lot of trouble. And I was a little punk, and so that was my identity to me. Like I didn't identify as like an athlete, and everyone would think like, oh, you guys are on campus would walk around like athletes. I would walk around like class clown. And so that's definitely who I thought I was. And very little of my identity went into sports, which is also really lucky. And then at UCLA, you learn a lot, you get to have a lot of perspective, and you're trying to better yourself. And so I ran into the identity of like trying to be the best person I could be. But that's a dangerous thing because you can get lost in not perfectionism, but I had a teammate hit really well that was like Bosnian, and he was like, yeah, but like you're never human then. You're always like thinking of the right way to do things and you're always trying to be perfect. But it's like, who are you as a person? Like be you and like put your skin in the game. And so you have to balance those things. And I think in America in general, there's a huge push, maybe more in the like university places or like places of intellect, of people like trying to learn so much psychology and trying to learn so much, but read books and better yourself. And like, I love that because I think people become a lot more open-minded and all that stuff, but also there's a balance and you have to be human and you can't put that kind of pressure on yourself either to be the perfect one, like always trying to like, oh, they totally wronged me. I'm going to do like the best thing I can do, and always constantly doing that kind of stuff. It wears on you, and you don't feel as free and you don't feel as alive. And you kind of become like a computer, like, okay, this is what happened. Analyze. This is the best situation to best way to respond, then respond. And I'm still in that place where I'm like trying to balance those two different things because there's benefits on both sides. And so, yeah, that's kind of I think where I'm at right now in terms of like the identity sense is like trying to figure out, along with a lot of other things, because we're always trying to figure identity is such a big thing right now. I feel like,
Yeah.
like back then it was not that big, especially because of identity politics, and like that plays a huge role. And then it's just the talk of the town is going to be race or what you identify as. And so there's a huge focus on it. And then a bunch of people are going to be like, I don't know. Like, I'm just living my life. Why do I have to figure out all these things? And, but for better or for worse, I don't know what the case is. It's just a natural cycle of politics and society. We're very, very highly focused on identity. And so I think a lot of people are going through that and like trying to figure out, who am I? What am I doing? Where am I from? All those kind of questions that you run into thinking about your identity. I think people are going through them.
Yeah.
More in America than anywhere else. Like 1,000 trillion times more in America.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Like the American society and culture is just, it kind of is a representation of where humans would go if all of their basic necessities are taken care of, and they're very privileged and like very intellectual. That's not coming from a cocky way, because I don't think that that's necessarily the best way. It's just me now like playing with, I think I did the math, I played with people from over 15 countries, and now played and lived in 3 different countries, well, 4 including the US. And my analysis is that US is like a postmodern society culture that you're realizing like first world problems are real problems, kind of. And it might not be like progress is great, but it comes with some stuff for sure. And I think that's also a place that we're at, is like, there's no doubt Americans are struggling the most mentally in the world. Like, not that may be a false statement. I know that there's a lot of things going on in Japan with high achieving expectations and academic pressures. So that's not fair. But I know that there's a really big mental health epidemic in America. Not comparing to anywhere else, but I know that there is one there. And I think it's a result of a lot of things. And one of them is self-absorption. Like, that's another part. This is a very long-winded answer. This is just a rant, actually. This is a rant.
It's okay. I love Micah rants.
Because I don't know where the question even started, but I think a lot of it stems from self-absorption, and it's fed by Instagram and all these things that are just me. And once you start getting a lot, very, very focused on yourself, and combined with the victim mentality that I think is very heavily sold in America, that's a bad combination. People should start thinking about others more. And I think that's where the rant ends. Next question. Shoot.
Well, it was a good segue, because I was going to talk about, how do you think the mental health of athletes in general are right now? And I think a lot of those things that you mentioned translate into athletics. A lot of the same mental problems.
I don't necessarily think that it's more prevalent in athletes than non-athletes. That's just my first gut instinct, is that from the people that I know, it's not only athletes. And it's not like, oh, most of my athlete friends are struggling and most of my non-athlete friends are doing great. And it's not like the other way around. It's kind of just like, it hits who it hits. And if you're a painter, it can hit you just as hard. And if you're a carpenter, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate against your profession.
Right.
It's a little bit bigger than that. But I think that we do have a difficult job at times because we're put in the limelight a lot. And every day that you work, you are being analyzed and criticized by someone that's standing over your shoulder. And then when you go to a game, you're being analyzed and criticized and judged off of your performance that day. And there's a lot of jobs that you might get away with not performing one day. But volleyball or athlete is not one of those. Like, you have a bad performance and you feel it, you know? You definitely feel it. And so I think that makes it difficult, and that athletes' identities can be tied up in their performance as an athlete. And I feel like I've been a little bit luckier on the sense of, like, I don't necessarily identify as just an athlete. I don't really see myself as like this big athlete, great athlete. I really like to play games and sports. And then I like to make music and hang out with friends. And so I've been really lucky and maybe blessed with the ability to diversify. But at the same time, I do feel some sort of pressure / disappointment in the fact that, like, when you diversify, it's a little bit more difficult to reach really high success levels. And I'm a big, firm believer in balance. But imbalances is what causes greatness in a lot of ways. Like the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and Elon Musk, and like, they have some imbalances, like, for sure. And even like most very talented people, you talk to them and you're like, oh, this guy's a little strange, you know, like something's a little off. And it's like, that's what makes them great, is that they're a little off. And so they're gonna go to levels that normal logical people would be like, not logical. Other people would just be like, I'm good. They're like, just on a different level. And so there's definitely some, not jealousy, but like disappointment in that I can't sacrifice my balance to be able to reach really high heights. Because, like everyone, we all want to reach those heights, and everyone wants to do it. It's just about those people that make it are the ones that are willing to sacrifice to make it there, combined with hard work, combined with talent. Because you do need talent to be a gold medalist, like, at the end of the day. But you also, like, have people that could be gold medalists that aren't, because they weren't willing to work hard enough and sacrifice their relationships and their hobbies and all of that. And so, yeah, I definitely have times where I'm like, frick, if I could just sacrifice, I think I could really achieve a lot of cool things. But I'm not at that point. And that's something that everyone goes through. And there's no wrong decision, in my opinion, because everything that you lose, you gain, right? So every time that I've lost like a summer with the national team, I've gained memories with my loved ones that I'll never forget. And family's so big to me. Everyone says family's big to them, but it's really, really big to me. Like, Zana was like, this is kind of nuts. Like, the amount that your family is important to you is like a little over the top. And I don't know if that's a Hawaii thing, if that's a Polynesian thing, if it's just a personal thing. But like, my family is like really, really important. And so I wish that I could. Do you wish you could be an Olympian? Yes. But am I would I trade being an Olympian, going to the last Olympics, for the night that I really connected with my sisters for the first time in 7 years? Because I did the national team for, people didn't realize, but I'd been in there my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't travel, and I wasn't like traveling, but I was practicing in there. So I didn't go home. And so and before that, you're playing nationals and doing a lot of stuff. But since college, I didn't have a summer at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have, I probably didn't have 10 days at home for 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Hawaii is a big part of my identity for sure. And it's a big part of like my upbringing and who I am and what makes me me. And at times I'm like, I need to spend more time there because I'm losing touch like with that. And that's who I am for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there's sacrifices everywhere, and you try your best, and you're going to lose some things and you're going to gain some things. And
Mm-hmm.
the way it works. But that's another rant.
I don't
Rant
even
number
remember
2.
what my question was.
Rant number 2. Rant number 2.
Do you think sacrificing your summers playing with the national team, like not being able to see your family, was that worth it to you?
To be super honest, I've never like analyzed those types of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a decision I made, and I dealt with it. And so like, where did that lead me today? Okay, nice. There's probably a lot of things that taught me that I'm not even aware of,
Mm-hmm.
that have opened up doors for me today that never would have been open. So I don't try and like analyze too much decisions in the past, just because you never really know. Like 10 years from now, I might have a relationship with someone, like not a romantic relationship, but I might have a relationship that was from that national team gym.
Right.
And like a dude, and we might connect and do something amazing together.
Right.
And it's like, I would have never met you if I weren't in there. So all those years I was pissed that I was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no need for that. I didn't know how that was going to shape and affect my life in the long run and in the short term. Like, something might happen tomorrow that I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I was in the national team. Like, I learned this or this happened. And so you just never know. And
Right.
so I try not to analyze them too much, but just be like, wow, it really, besides the fact of the things that it really gave me and that I learned.
I'm assuming you're not a person that has a lot of regrets in life, right?
No. Yeah, I'm not. I'm really not. Because everything needs, I don't know, I have also like a little higher faith that everything needs to happen, right? So
Right.
I think that also helps a lot. I think that's something that America is missing too right now,
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit of faith or hope or something, and something grander than just
Right.
this. Because if it's just this, then you can do whatever you want, and you can just, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's this less importance, and there's less faith, and there's less peace of mind. And so I think that also helps. Everything happens for a reason, I believe.
Micah the philosopher.
Yeah, Micah the philosopher, Aristotle.
That's your next identity.
I definitely have. That's definitely part of my identity as well, because I really did dive into philosophy in college.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like a year or two after that too, I'm a really big thinker,
Mm-hmm.
although it doesn't seem like I am, because I can really,
you are.
I can turn it off and I can turn it on. So it's like, people think of me and they're like, that guy does not think for a second. And then like other people, that very few amount of people that I actually have like kind of in-depth conversation with would know that I'm kind of a deeper thinker. So it's definitely part of my identity. But like I said, it's diverse. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the guy that can sit down and like talk really in depth about very difficult conversations. I want to be the guy that you can take and like play darts and like just mess around,
Right.
which also is an identity that I'm like, who am I then? Because I can like, like I have the opposite identity crisis of like somebody that's like, I'm a volleyball player. And so they ride the wave of like, if they're not playing well, then they're like,
Right.
oh, if they're playing great, then they're like, I'm the best in the world. And like their identity's tied to their performance and
Right.
volleyball. I have the opposite thing. Where like I don't really tie my identity to anything because I'm really all over the map. And so like, but then it comes to me being like, wait, then who am I? If in this situation I'm able to do this, and then in this situation I'm this, and in this. So that's also a place that I'm trying to get to is like adaptability is a strength for sure, and I mean evolutionarily it's all that matters. The ones that can adapt survive. It's not the strongest,
Right.
not the fastest, not the smartest, and so I think that I'm proud of that, but it definitely comes back to biting the butt where you're like, kind of don't want to adapt all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want you to throw me into a situation. They're like, oh, that guy stands out. Like, he didn't assimilate at all, because he's such a
Yeah.
strong, like, he is him and he's going to be him. And so there's that too.
I think when you ask the question, who am I, you don't have to give like one singular answer, Like, for example, you were saying that guy that only plays volleyball, he would say, yeah, I'm blank, the volleyball player, period. But I mean, even if you ask yourself, who am I? You can be like, I'm Micah, the volleyball player, the artist, the
Right. No,
boyfriend,
I think that
brother,
that's good.
son.
Totally. I think that that's super healthy. It's just, and I think I am consistent in a certain sense where like, you're never going to get me into a situation where I'm like complaining
Mhm.
and like in a negative place. So I think I am that. Like that's something that I don't sacrifice on. And there's a lot of things that I'm not going to sacrifice on. So that becomes kind of my identity that doesn't waver.
Mhm.
And then yeah, in the volleyball court and in this situation, I can adapt in certain senses, but I'm not going to waver on that. I'm not going to waver on this. And that's kind of where I'll draw the line. And I think that's healthy. I think that's good.
Nice.
I'm tooting my own horn in that sense for sure. Like, yeah, you know what? I just figured out. I think I'm good. I think I'm doing well.
Love that.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap it up here pretty soon. What advice would you give to, someone that's maybe played volleyball for a few years or even not any other sport for a few years and they're struggling with, whether it's a bad game or bad practice and I would say most of their identity is being a good volleyball player. Like, what would you say to someone who's struggling with that?
Um, there's two things that come to mind. One is that you never control wins or losses fully, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
those things are really can be up in the air. You can try your best, and someone else can. Something that I learned from an Italian teammate was like we played well and we lost like 3-2 in a game, and everyone was bummed, and I was like, "Frack!" And he's like, "They played well. They played well," and he was like so unbothered,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Wow, like what a healthy way to think about it." Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we played well, but like they're professional athletes too, and
Mm-hmm.
they play every single day too. And they're gonna have games where they're gonna play like lights out, and this was one of them. And so, bravo, good job, and like we play the next game too. Like you know what I mean. So that was something that I learned, which was really helpful in situations that we lose, and then also
Mm-hmm.
just that like there's no really wins or losses. I know that that's kind of like the last thing I said, where it's like there's no right or wrong, there's no good or evil. Like you just never know. Like that's why I don't analyze my decision making because I'm like I just never know. Like I could have taken a summer off went to Hawaii, went out on a big day, hit my head on the reef, and died. And like maybe like that could have happened, right? So maybe the gym saved my life. I don't even know that. I don't know the alternate reality of me choosing not to do something. It could be terrible. I could run a red light and hit someone, and you know what I mean? And so that's the same thing with wins and losses, is like, wow, this loss could be like one of the more important games I've played, because I really learned that, and like, ooh, like one time that I learned something was like I lost and I was like, ooh, it really didn't feel good to play it safe. I've lost like putting my like all and like going for the risky, like courageous play, and I've lost playing it safe.
Right.
And now I know I don't like to lose playing it safe. And I'm fine if I lose and I'm like, I went for it, I'm fine.
Right.
And so like those losses were more important than a win to me. Like they've played more of a role in my volleyball career than a lot of wins have. Not to say all the wins, because some wins I learned something too. But they're all lessons. And so like, as cliche as it is, no losses are real losses unless you like really let them be. And there's always things to take from losses. And if you look at it like that, you're never losing. You're like, woof, I learned that. Like, nice. That was important. That was a good game.
Right.
I really learned something important. For sure, if you're a competitor, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel it for those moments. And then I also have a second understanding, like a higher understanding of like, but I learned this. So it's not a loss. It's a lesson.
Yeah. You could scale that down to even like singular mistakes. Like, if you hit a ball out for 1 point, some people, hang their heads on just 1 point that they made a mistake on, and they played terribly for the rest of the game because they're thinking about that one mistake. So I think the same thought process could be applied to that as well.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it's not even like losses in a game. It's micro losses that you can kind of approach in the same way. They say babies are like, you should be like a baby. Like baby tries to stand up like thousands of times.
Right.
And like never is defeated, never is complacent with sitting down, always wants to stand up, and is not tied in the identity of like not being able to stand up. And then tries a million times and stands up and is happy. And then falls down. And then is like again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, we get stupider as we get older.
Let's all just be babies.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn from them. There's a lot to learn from everyone. If you're looking to learn, for sure.
Yep. Very insightful, Micah. Is there anything else you want to give advice on, or anything you want to say to any aspiring athletes?
Not really. No, I have like a brain that kind of goes off of questions more. So once the question comes,
that was a question.
But if there's, if there's no prompt, my brain is just pretty quiet. But then once you give me like a prompt for me to think about, I'm like, oh, I can take this wherever we need to go.
And other directions.
But no, this is really cool. Okay, I'm really like stoked about what you, Dalton, and James are doing, and you guys have such a good team. You guys have 3 really cool people that have a lot to offer, and so I'm really stoked that you guys are doing this. It's really cool.
Thanks, Micah. We just want to help people that are either struggling or not even struggling, just want to become better or learn more, whatever it is.
For sure.
Just create a platform for them.
For sure. That's awesome.
Well, I appreciate you joining, Micah. You shared some very insightful things that I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from, as always.
I hope so.
And shout out to our partner, ESPN Honolulu. We appreciate you
guys.
Shout out
to ESPN Honolulu. Hold it down.
Right. Yep. All right, guys. This has been Off the Court Health Podcast. Thanks for joining.